Well, thanks for meeting with us.
No problem.
It's a really exciting new album for you. Like, obviously, you've worked with a lot of really legendary figures before, but this is one of the first times you work with a producer at the moment in Mark Ronson.
Yes.
How do you feel that kind of challenged you?
I was deemed worthy. You know, it's hard for me to really conceive of that whole concept, only because, you know, I know Mark so well now. You know, we got along so well in the process and became pretty fast friends. And for me, it's just yet another wonderful person in my life, because I have quite a few. And it's funny, because especially coming back to England to do a lot of press, I am struck by his stature here. I mean, really, you know, they have all those Coca-Cola ads now.
Yeah, I've seen
on TV with him.
Saw it yesterday.
He was hosting a TV show the other day. So he's big time over here, which in America he's extremely well respected as well. But that, I don't know, that all seems to evaporate quite quickly when you're with him on a personal level. He makes no, you know, pretensions to you know, appear. Though he looks like a star, but just, I don't know, the general ambiance that he creates is very, very, very low key.
It seems more of a collaborative album, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was ready at that point, especially after, you know, being so involved in my opera and then, you know, singing songs of my mother's, the great late Kate McGarrigle, and sort of having this very, you know, directorial air on all of these other projects. I was ready to kind of sit back and let somebody else take the reins and give me their 50 cents at least, more than two. And he you know, did exactly that. Though that being said, you know, there were times when he did come back and ask my opinion and had to, you know, due to the nature of my material being so unique, really let me step in and do my magic. And if I may say so myself. So yes, it was collaborative in the end, but I think it was mainly because I was ready to let Mark do his job and be a producer and be the captain of the ship.
It's been good in this record as well, because I noticed, I'm not sure whether it was like a challenge of working with like vocalists like the Dap Kings and things like that, right. But it seems like you've actually really been pushed to some of your best vocal performances. On that as well.
I'm very happy. I mean, part of that is Mark, and also singing to the vision of Mark behind evil plated glass. Or also this great mic that he used, which of course I can't remember what it is, but apparently it's the same mic that Elvis used. Not the same exact mic, but the same model. So there was the mic, the Mark, and also I think I was prepared to just relax and have a good time after all of this heavy duty crap that I'd been through over the last couple of years.
It does seem like it's been quite an intense period for you. I think that manifests itself in the record as such a direct contrast to the album that's preceded. Totally, as well. So that was an intentional like clearing of the decks, looking forward, or...
Yeah, no, I mean, intentional was sort of the last point, and it was so natural. I mean, it was almost this kind of, you know, biological effect of just having been so devastated and so involved in the matters of life and death, and you know, even with the birth of my daughter Viva a year ago, I mean, that was an incredibly beautiful experience, but also, you know, quite taxing. And so yeah, it was like an elastic band had been finally released, and with this album, and I could just, you know, enjoy myself.
Yeah. It seems lyrically though with the record as well that a lot of the songs are kind of letters to people or like constant, and there's this kind of like diary style to what you're doing as well. Like, I mean, obviously on like a track like Rashida, there's a kind of diary aspect to that.
Yes.
But also one of my favourite on the record's Montauk as well.
A lot of people love that song.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I think that obviously with the birth of your daughter as well, is that conversation with her trying to get preempt what she might be thinking of happening with you, or do you feel more that's how you perceive yourself?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to envision an idyllic future, for all of us. That's actually a good point, because it is an idyllic but yet realistic view of the future, and especially if you consider that I bring in my mother's passing at the end of the song, and sing, kind of touch on death with my daughter, which is heavy duty, but certainly within a great tradition of scary fairy tales that all kids have to grow up with. I think what it is also is that I've had a chance, many opportunities to see Viva over the last year, the first year of her life. I've visited her pretty much once a month, and had a lot of quality time. That's all going to change now that this album is being released, and I have to go off on the road and make a few bucks. So I think it's also a bit of like a future time capsule. Like let's bury the future and see if it lasts, and a hope for what our lives will look like in probably about 2 or 3 years.
On your last record as well, it does seem that there was that I think communication and outpouring that we were just talking about as well, but you also chose to pepper that with some sonnets from Shakespeare as well.
Yeah. Which I'm very excited about, because I premiered 5 sonnets, 3 of which were on my last album, but I orchestrated 5 of them, and created this little song cycle that I premiered in the UK. So I'm very, very enamored of the sonnets, and they've done a lot for all of us. I was never particularly drawn to the sonnets or knew much about them. I mean, I'd heard of them, but we didn't study them in high school, for instance, and therefore, fell into this wondrous treasure trap of words and feelings, and of course, once again, it intersected with my mother's passing and her illness, and there was no better kind of art to cling on to at that period in that dark period of my life.
That sort of healing carrying through as well.
And also just the kind of psychedelic or mysterious nature of the sonnets, where you never quite really know what they're saying or what they're referring to. There's always a layer of stained glass or something between what the meaning is and what you're feeling, and that's what true art really does.
When you performed that originally in a more stripped down basis and in that song cycle process, how does that differ to your approach for when you're doing a pop album production, or even your approach to the Judy?
Well, we'll see. I mean, that whole period is so kind of etched in other stuff, meaning that it was like I was on another planet at that point. So, but I would say that, every night that I performed that concert, and I did some pretty amazing shows. I mean, I did it at the Royal Albert Hall, and I did it at Carnegie Hall. I did it at this incredible opera house in Barcelona called the Liceo, and beautiful venue, Sydney Opera House. Anyways, but many times, once I hit those sonnets in the evening, it was such a kind of relief because I could just get the words out as clearly as possible, and that's all I really had to do. And that's all I had to do. So because they're the sonnets can have my music or not, and they'll still be fascinating.
So you went into the Judy album looking for some light relief, but you found something deeper than that. You'd say that's a fair comment?
It was really the invasion of Iraq that I thought was the great tragedy of American history of late. Certainly 9/11 was traumatizing and everything, but there was this brilliant moment after 9/11 when it did seem like maybe we were all going to try to get together and make the world a kinder, gentler place, and that the universal community was had heart for America, but then that was all dashed once we invaded Iraq. So that for me was the great tragedy, and I hated the United States at that point. And yes, the Judy record from Carnegie Hall was a kind of spark that I could sort of follow through the corner of my eye, and occasionally remind myself why I lived in the United States, and why I'm still proud of that country sometimes. I'm very affected by the currents of the world. I don't think that it's viable, really, especially living in the United States, to just sit there and have no opinion and have no kind of thought on what it means to have this kind of power. I think especially today with the internet and iPhones and texting and tweeting and stuff, you can't get out of the line of fire anymore, and just be neutral. I mean, it's sort of like Switzerland being neutral in the war, which we know is completely false. So it's I think you have to kind of grapple with these issues no matter what.
Totally.
Yeah. There was maybe a time when you could kind of isolate yourself in Colorado.
On your first album, you were doing kind of pushing the limits of what song was and pop song was with Van Dyke Parks and things, and then sought to actively kind of compete in a, I guess, commercial pop world as well. Do you think that, in it being 10 years on from that point, you feel kind of ready to use this album as a kind of commercial announcement again and try and hit a lot of people with that?
Yeah, I do consider this album a sort of rebirth of my career. Only because I in my last ventures I've done everything possible to kind of destroy it, be it working on an opera or doing a solo piano vocal record, and I've really kind of pushed the limits of what's possible for a kind of struggling pop artist to do, and have survived that gamble. So now it's kind of time to give the record company what they want, make my agent happy, and go out there and play the game, even though I'm out of it apparently.
That's been the title of the album and that focus, and I think it's good.
It's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
What I've always believed, and this I thought when I started, was that to be a successful artist, you have to be different from everybody else. Now, that, it turns out, was the opposite of the norm. It turns out that you were supposed to. One was supposed to fit into this certain box so that they could put you in that shelf, in that section of the store. I never quite got that, so I just did a whole bunch of different things, and I think through some sort of biodiversity of sorts was able to survive a few storms, but was never really catapulted as far as they wanted to throw me, or even as far as I wanted to go. But oddly enough, in having done all of the things, the one thing I didn't do was actually play the game and actually do what they tell me, or think about radio or and stuff like that. So now I'm just at that juncture, It's like, okay, well, we've tried everything else. Let's actually try selling some records. I haven't done that yet. So that's sort of where we are now, and we'll see if that works or not. And then, I'll probably write, some kind of
a reaction.
I don't know, some sort of novel about, turtles or something. I don't know.
It's a good subject matter. You've just done the House of Rufus, the big retrospective. Do you think that cleaning out was part of that process in order for you to move forward through that? Is that?
Yes, it ended up being that. It wasn't a sort of conscious decision. We gotta clear out the attic or anything. But it was for the Royal Opera House. I mean, I'm being an opera fan, and especially a fan of that particular theater. We wanted something big. We wanted something brash and overpriced.
So looking back through that material, are there which key bits are you most proud of? Do you think? Because it's been such a diverse career.
Of the material in general. When I did do those shows at the Royal Opera House, certainly singing with my dad and my sister. I think my family is probably the aspect that I'm most fascinated by, because they've had to roll with the punches too. My dad's putting out an album around the same time as me. My sister is working on her new record, and also my mom. After her death, we started to really examine her songs, and we did an incredible tribute show at the Royal Festival Hall, and then one in New York, and now it's turning out that kind of her catalog is perhaps the most kind of brilliant in terms of the perspective that she brought to through her very interesting life as a woman in the music industry, and how pure it remained, because she decided to stay in Canada and not chase the proverbial carrot. So it's this extremely vibrant and extremely heartbreaking set of songs, and so that to me is still probably the most fascinating. I'm a family man, I guess.
Yeah. What next? Do you have anything off the list apart from the book on turtles, of course, that you
the book on turtles,
you want to tick off, or is it just you're going to follow where the muse takes you?
I will say that having written my first opera, which was in many ways just a great success due to the fact that it's already been in 5 cities, and it's pretty much sells out every night. So people seem to love it. I mean, classical critics aside, who can be quite brutal, but that's I'm with the best of them in that department.
So you still read those reviews and?
Oh, I do, unfortunately, but it's not. But I've also had very good reviews. So it's sort of it's more of a dialogue more than anything, which is fantastic. But
would you alter based on reviews then, if it's a dialogue sense?
Yeah, no, I listen to some of them if they're conscientious of the reality of the situation, i.e. it's my first opera, and it's very good.
Give me a break.
Yeah, give me a break, and it's a very good first opera if you look at most major opera composers, and. Let's just say that I wrote an opera and Mahler didn't. But that being said, I do think that it's important to continue that dialogue and to write another one at some point, and really deepen the horizon, so that's probably when I'll be the most satisfied, is when I write a really great opera. But that's down the line.
Oh, well, thanks very much for your time, and good luck with this fantastic record.
Thank you.